Good morning, you're watching AnewZ. I'm Lee Brown. Here are your headlines. The second day of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit is underway in the Chinese port city of Tianjin. Protesters in Israel demand to end the war in Gaza and return the hostages. And Pakistani authorities report that floods have claimed over 850 lives since the start of the monsoon season. The 25th summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which began yesterday, enters its second day today. Chinese President Xi Jinping has described the meeting as a turning point for the SCO as leaders continue discussions on regional security, economic collaboration and energy cooperation. Our correspondent Leila Rahimli is reporting more from the Media Center.
Hello from Media Center. Of the 25th summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization is underway here in Tianjin, and Chinese President Xi Jinping has called today's gathering a turning point in the organization's history. In his opening remarks, Xi Jinping highlighted what he called a series of historic firsts, from establishing a military confidence building mechanisms along shared borders to launching joint actions against terrorism, separatism and extremism, and also spearheading Belt and Road cooperation. Xi Jinping underlined that the ACO has now grown into the world's largest regional organization, encompassing 26 countries, more than 50 areas of cooperation, and combined economic output close to $30 trillion. Meanwhile, on the sidelines of the summit, Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev met with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The two leaders reaffirmed the strength of their brotherly and strategic alliance, discussing the expansion of cooperation in energy and transport. Particular emphasis was placed on SOCAR's partnership with Turkey's BOTAŞ, the delivery of Azerbaijani gas to Syria via Turkey with Qatar's financial support, and joint energy projects in third countries. They also highlighted the groundbreaking of the Kars-Iğdır-Dilucu railway line and exchanged views on ongoing railway developments in Azerbaijan, including Nakhchivan. The meeting also touched on the normalization process between Azerbaijan and Armenia, with Erdogan's stabilizing role in the region raised, and looked ahead to the upcoming Turkic state summit to be hosted in Azerbaijan. And here in Tianjin, speeches from other world leaders, including Russia's Vladimir Putin, India's Narendra Modi, and Iran's Masoud Pezeshkian, are expected later today as the summit continues to chart new ground in Eurasian multilateralism. And that's for all now. I'm Leila Rahimli and Elbrus Musayev for AnewZ.
Continuing in Tianjin, attention is on charting the bloc's roadmap for the next 10 years at what officials are calling its biggest ever assembly. The summit has also served as a key platform for bilateral talks, especially across the broader SCO Plus framework, facilitating significant discussions between China and other full members, as well as observer states and dialogue partners. Joining us now to reflect on the outcomes of Day 1 and the broader significance of Day 2 is Yunus Sharifli, non-resident fellow, China Global South Project from Istanbul, Turkey. Good morning.
Good morning.
What are your key takeaways from what has been called the largest ever SCO summit to date?
So, thank you very much for this question. So, as you know, SCO was built on particularly on security cooperation, actually preventing the three evils, namely radicalism, separatism, and extremism. So in today's SCO summit also focused particularly on security cooperation. And in addition to, actually, we saw that SCO going evolve itself and focus more identity and economic cooperation. So in this context, we saw that not only China, but also other member countries look more broader economic cooperation. That's why in this summit it's particularly important, because just approximately 2 hours ago, the Chinese President Xi Jinping also said that the SCO need to with new security cooperation center and drug cooperation center. In addition, he emphasized to the need for build new SEO development bank. Actually, this is not first time to this development bank emphasized by China, but we saw that China again want to expand the economic cooperation under the SEO. In addition to that, SEO is very important not only for collective action and collective initiatives, but also for bilateral talks, because we know that there is a range of countries currently to summit. Particularly one of the considerable one actually is China-India cooperation, because as you know, last 5 years there's a lot of conflict and issue between China and India, and one of the critical point of this SEO summit is the recovery initiative by China and India to cooperate and develop their relationship. So actually SEO is very important in two contexts. One is about collective action in terms of security and economic cooperation, and bilateral talks platform such as China, Azerbaijan, or China, Turkey. So these countries have a chance to talk each other, find new cooperation opportunities, and go look for the future.
Some interesting points there, but since its founding in 2001, the SEO has often been seen as reflecting China's leadership, with Russia's role gradually diminishing. To what extent is that shift evident at this summit in particular?
Yes, because in past actually Russia is particularly very active, and Russia also proposed a range of initiatives. For example, the creation of the Eurasian Development Bank, which started by actually China. In later stage, we know that China and Russia actually divergent interest in SEO, particularly for the economic cooperation. They try to balance each other, but they have a common ground for security cooperation. But today we know that, particularly in the context of Russia-Ukraine, where Russia is a declining power, but China, in contrast, is a rising power. So most of member countries include the Central Asian countries, even regional powers like India want to recover and develop their economic relationship, because China is the biggest market, particularly for export. China is the biggest investor, one of the biggest investors in the world, that these member countries want to attract Chinese investment, particularly in technology spheres such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, quantum computing, and other topics. So in this context, we know that China has a rising role in SEO, and in future also we will see more active role, because currently China actually is only power that in terms of economy, technology, and military power play critical role like United States. So member countries very eager to develop their relationship with China. By the way, I mean member countries, Russia is also included to develop and keep stable its relationship with China on the SEO.
I want to draw your attention back to, you earlier mentioned Azerbaijan. President Aliyev's meeting with President Xi highlighted the ongoing strengthening of their relationship. What developments might we expect next in implementing the comprehensive strategic partnership announced in April?
Yes, absolutely. As you know, as you mentioned it, China and Azerbaijan already signed comprehensive strategic partnership, and we know that most important the topics and fields that they want to cooperate is focus on renewable energy, electric cooperation on electric vehicle, and transport. Actually, middle corridor. And last two years we saw a full development between two countries. There's a range of projects that applied, and some of them is already ongoing in terms of transport cooperation and renewable energy, BYD's electric bus in Azerbaijan, and currently we saw that Azerbaijan also eager to cooperate with China in terms of artificial intelligence and digitalization, because China is also as one of the leading country in terms of digital sphere and cutting edge technology. So probably we will see more financial cooperation and digital cooperation with China. And for China, Azerbaijan is also very important, because currently Russia-Ukraine war actually create disruption in the northern corridor, which goes through Russia for sustain the trade between China and European Union. Iran actually is very uncertain country due to the recent Israel-Iran conflict. So Azerbaijan actually offer most stable, resilient, and also most importantly, sanction-free corridor for China. That's why both countries has an interest to cooperate each other and find new cooperation field for future.
And on that middle corridor and the strategic partnership, with a 40% surge in bilateral trade between Azerbaijan and China, what does this say about the pace and scale of the engagement we're seeing?
Yes, in every year we saw that there's a growing trade volume. It's very normal because Azerbaijan is also a developing country. That's why in a range of new goods and technological products. And as I mentioned, Chinese play the leading role because China offer affordable and quality product. Its normal is actually in past there's a suspicion toward Chinese product because of its affordable but low quality. But currently, China emerges most important country that offer both affordability and quality. So that's why it's normal that we saw a development in the trade volume. In addition to that, Azerbaijan also increases export to China. In future, most important things will be about more balanced trade relationship. Of course, we know that Azerbaijan need to import more China because China is the second largest economy and produce a range of products. However, Azerbaijan has to increase agricultural products or agro process the product to Chinese market in order to further promote its economic development.
And lastly, I want to ask you about Armenia's recent strategic partnership, though not yet comprehensive, with China. How significant is this development for Beijing's presence in the South Caucasus?
Yes, actually, China, as you mentioned it, China and Azerbaijan already signed comprehensive strategic partnership. China has already strategic partnership with Georgia, and actually Armenia is the last country in the South Caucasus that we saw yesterday signed strategic partnership agreement. It's very important for in terms of Armenian foreign policy because we saw that they also try to transform their foreign policy from unipolar to univector to multivector with developing their relationship with the European Union, United States and China. That's why this strategic partnership is important. And we saw that Armenian leadership want to develop more balanced foreign policy in the long term and reduce their dependence on Russia and also Iran. So in this context, for China also actually this create new opportunity because recent normalization effort between China, Azerbaijan and Armenia also offer a range of opportunities for China in the South Caucasus because more resilient and stable South Caucasus means that China and Chinese companies has a chance to invest, transport, renewable energy and digital sphere in all three countries and also reduce perception about the geopolitical risk. So that's why this strategic partnership with China will increase China's presence in South Caucasus, at least in terms of economic presence. We saw that more investment and more trade volume in future.
That's great. Thank you so much for your insights, Yusuf, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin says progress made at his August summit with US President Donald Trump could help resolve the crisis in Ukraine. Speaking at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Forum in Tianjin, Putin praised proposals from China and India aimed at facilitating peace. He also highlighted what he called constructive understandings reached during the recent Russia-US meeting in Alaska. Remaining with the war in Ukraine, the European Union is hardening its position on Moscow, pushing for tougher sanctions and keeping frozen assets linked to reparations for Ukraine. This follows Russia's latest deadly strike on Kyiv, which killed dozens and even damaged diplomatic missions. AnewZ now recaps the week's key developments.
EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas said it is impossible to return frozen Russian assets unless Moscow pays reparations. She spoke before a meeting of EU foreign ministers in Copenhagen this week. The EU has frozen about 210 billion euros of Russian assets under sanctions over the war in Ukraine. Ukraine and countries like Poland and the Baltic states want the EU to confiscate these funds to help Kyiv. But France, Germany and Belgium oppose this, saying only profits from the assets are set aside for Ukraine.
We see that Russia does not want peace, although there are a lot of diplomatic efforts made to bring Zelensky and Russia to the table. We can't possibly imagine that, if there is ceasefire or a peace deal, that these assets are given back to Russia if they haven't paid for the reparations.
At the informal meeting of the EU's foreign ministers in Copenhagen, Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen stressed to keep up the push on Russia.
We need to build up even bigger pressure on Putin. I think it's quite obvious that he's just dragging the time, trying to buy time and divert their attention from his continued attacks on civilians and infrastructure, and most recently also EU representation in Kiev.
The Kremlin will stop at nothing to terrorize Ukraine. That's according to the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who expressed outrage after Russia's drone and missile attack on Kyiv on Thursday. The assault killed 23 people, including 4 children, left dozens injured, and damaged the European Union delegation's building in the Ukrainian capital. Von der Leyen announced that Brussels will soon introduce further sanctions against Moscow.
We will come forward soon with our 19th package of hard-biting sanctions. And in parallel, we are advancing the work on the Russian frozen assets to contribute to Ukraine's defense and reconstruction.
According to Ukrainian officials, Russia launched nearly 600 drones and more than 30 ballistic and cruise missiles, the most intense assault on Kyiv this month. Many of the victims were killed when a 5-story residential building collapsed in the Donetsky district on the city's left bank. Alongside the EU mission, the Azerbaijani embassy in Kyiv was also damaged in the blasts. Windows were shattered and the consular roof cracked, but Azerbaijan's foreign ministry confirmed there were no injuries among staff and the embassy remains operational. Meanwhile, the Kremlin said on Thursday it was still interested in pursuing peace talks over Ukraine, saying that both sides were continuing military strikes, but that Russia remained committed to diplomacy.
Looking to the Middle East, where in Israel, families of hostages held in Gaza gathered in Tel Aviv to demand a deal with Hamas. Their protests came as the government discussed expanding its military offensive in Gaza.
More than 150 people gathered outside Israel's military headquarters in Tel Aviv on Sunday, calling for urgent action to free hostages held in Gaza. Family members and protesters placed 48 empty chairs in the street, one for each captive, and read out their names so cabinet members would not forget them. Chants of "only public pressure can bring back the hostages" echoed through the crowd. The protest was timed to coincide with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet meeting.
We are in front of the cabinet meeting that's going to be held here in a few minutes. And what we've seen is a prime minister that had demands from Hamas that Hamas accepted. And even though that Hamas accepted the terms of the deal, the prime minister is not willing to discuss and to approve a deal that he wanted.
Families of the hostages accuse the government of ignoring opportunities for their release.
The only thing that they are discussing is how to intensify the military actions in Gaza, which puts at risk my son as well as 47 other hostages.
Israeli officials say 48 hostages remain in Gaza, with 20 believed to be alive. Families say time is running out to bring them home.
Now, turning directly to the war in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis is deepening, with hundreds of thousands facing famine and severe food insecurity. Aid agencies warn children are being denied education, while safe evacuation from Gaza City remains impossible.
The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is worsening as thousands face famine and severe food insecurity. The UN Relief and Works Agency reported that around 660,000 children in Gaza have been deprived of schooling for the 3rd consecutive year amid ongoing Israeli strikes. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East described the conflict as a war on children that must stop, and called for an immediate ceasefire to allow children to return to school and normal life. The World Food Programme and the Integrated Food Security Phase classification have warned that parts of Gaza are experiencing famine conditions. Around 514,000 people in Gaza City and surrounding areas are severely food insecure, with numbers expected to rise in central and southern districts. In July alone, over 12,000 children were identified as acutely malnourished, the highest monthly figure ever recorded, and a six-fold increase since the start of the year. The World Food Programme said aid deliveries have increased to about 100 trucks per day, but remain far below the 600 trucks needed daily to meet demand. The International Committee of the Red Cross warned on Saturday that a mass evacuation of Gaza City is impossible to conduct safely or with dignity, as many civilians cannot move due to starvation, illness, or injury. The IPC report stressed that famine could soon spread to other parts of the enclave if access and aid delivery are not scaled up.
Now, the text of a memorandum of understanding signed between Azerbaijan and the US on 8th of August in Washington has been made public. The document outlines the creation of a strategic working group tasked with drafting a strategic partnership charter within 6 months. Under the memorandum, the two countries agreed to strengthen cooperation in energy and investments and regional connectivity, as well as in defense, counterterrorism, trade, artificial intelligence, and digital infrastructure. The deal will remain in force for 1 year with the option to extend by mutual agreement.
So after 33 years.
Moving to Central Asia, where Kazakhstan has made AI studies mandatory across all 93 universities this academic year, with 20 institutions introducing 25 new AI programs. The AI Sana program rolls out campus-wide, giving every student hands-on AI training, and already 390,000 have completed the course, with 3,000 earning certificates. This is part of a bigger push flagged by President Tokayev earlier this month to make AI a key engine of national growth. Meanwhile, the Alam AI Center is rising in Astana, aiming to turn Kazakhstan into an AI powerhouse and drive AI exports to $5 billion by 2029. Now, Pakistan is reeling from catastrophic floods that have claimed more than 850 lives and forced over 1.5 million people from their homes. The hardest hit area is Punjab province, including Lahore, where swollen rivers have swept away houses, leaving many to take shelter in temporary camps.
Pakistan is grappling with catastrophic floods that have displaced over 1.5 million people across thousands of villages in the northeast. Authorities say more than 850 people have died nationwide this monsoon season. Torrential rains and the release of excess water from Indian dams have swollen the Ravi, Sutlej and Chenab rivers, inundating more than 1,400 villages in Punjab province. Thousands of homes have been destroyed, forcing families into temporary shelters, including in Lahore.
The floodwaters have risen alarmingly high, almost reaching 1.5 stories. The water came so swiftly that we couldn't salvage any of our belongings. Now the area is inaccessible due to the water level, and we're forced to live in tents on the road, unable to return home.
India, which routinely releases water from dams when they reach capacity, said it had issued 3 flood warnings to Pakistan this week as a humanitarian measure. Punjab authorities confirmed at least 12 deaths last week, while residents like Mohammed Nazir face devastating personal losses.
There has been a loss of 1.5 million rupees. My house must have been swept away by the water. Not a single thing would have been left. There were solar panels there. Everything must have been destroyed. Not a single thing would have been able to be saved, nor would the house be saved. It was a 10-mala house, built piece by piece.
With monsoon rains continuing, officials warn that the humanitarian crisis in Punjab could worsen in the days ahead.
2 remarkable sites now. Turkey's Karempe Lighthouse has stood watch over the Black Sea for 140 years. Built in 1885, it remains both a key maritime guide and a symbol of local heritage.
The Karempe Lighthouse has been a guiding beacon for sailors navigating the Black Sea for 140 years. Built in 1885 by the French, the lighthouse is perched 82 metres above sea level on the cliffs of Karempe Cape.
This is the second most protruding point on the Black Sea coast. For generations, sailors, fishermen and ships have relied on this lighthouse.
Once powered by oil lamps, the lighthouse now operates on an electric system, flashing every 20 seconds to alert vessels. It stands as one of the most significant navigational landmarks on Turkish northern coast.
One sailor once told me he got lost at night but saw the lighthouse and followed its light back to shore. He said, "Thanks to this light, I made it home."
The lighthouse has been closely tied to local heritage, with generations of keepers serving there for decades. Today, Karempe Lighthouse continues to provide safety to sailors and fishermen while remaining a cultural symbol of the region.
The Premier League continues to kick on under a busy and exciting week of sport. Over in the Dutch Formula 1, some surprises shook up the grid. It's almost transfer deadline day, which will no doubt create sports headlines. Nick Summerby is with us now. Good morning. Before we get to...
Good morning, big day today.
Oh, continue, please.
Yeah, no, massive day today. It's the transfer window closes at 7 o'clock, which is UK time. It's been about the talk about Isak all throughout the summer. Everything has been on Newcastle. Well, it looks like he's got his move and the deal has been approved, 125 million. It surprises me because I thought maybe it would have gone up to the 140 million, but he will be there now. This will be done. Also, they'll be looking at Gahey. He scored yesterday for Crystal Palace, and he looks like he'll be on his way as well. But there's going to be a lot of movement. Newcastle, they brought Voltman in as well, Voltmaid who came in. He is not a natural centre forward, so expect movement with Wieser from Brentford. He's not been involved at all there. And they're also looking at Strand Larsen as well. So there's going to be movement there. You've got Xavi Simons. I think this is going to be really interesting to see him in the Premier League, the Dutch international. You know, he really comes with... He's one of those players that could really light up the Premier League, so we'll look to see him. Nkunku as well has left Chelsea. He's gone to AC Milan. But Nicholas Jackson flew to Munich to sign for Bayern Munich, which was a year-long loan. Now Delap has got injured. Chelsea have asked him to come back. He didn't want to come back. I think that's been sorted out now. The deal is a no-go, so he'll have to come back and honour his contract with Chelsea. Garnacho as well from Manchester United. He has signed for Chelsea 40 million. And I really do rate this lad. I don't know about his attitude so much for a young lad, but I think he's a really big signing. Over 300 million they've spent at Chelsea. Sancho might go to Villa. Martinez, the goalkeeper from Villa, might go as well to Manchester United. Donnarumma today. Just keep your eye on, just watch on your phone, on your WhatsApp, watch, because there's going to be a lot of movement happening and you're going to see teams. I do worry for smaller clubs because I don't like the transfer window when it should be stopped at the start of the season so you know what squad of players you've got. But a lot's going to happen today.
And moving back onto the pitch over last weekend, who stole the show in the Premier League? Any shocks, any twists, any jaw droppers? I know last night's goal had many in awe.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the biggest game was obviously Liverpool versus Arsenal. Was it a good game? Arsenal had a lot of possession, but they didn't really have the firepower. I know they've got Gyökeres, but they didn't. They controlled the game in the first half, and second half Liverpool got into it, and it was a single goal. It was a bobsleigh. What a goal it was! And I tell you something, they've had a difficult week. A tough game against Newcastle. Really difficult game to come through that, and then a huge game against Arsenal. Liverpool favourites, and with Isak going into the team and maybe Gahey as well, they are the team to beat. But it's early. Arsenal will come strong. They look organised. They look rigid. They look difficult to beat. But that gave us a little bit of a sample. Sunderland, my ex-team, that's 2 wins for them. Yeah, you've got to say as well, with the teams which have come up, they're putting a fight on. Leeds managed to draw, which is okay because you're picking the points up. Spurs, they got their first defeat, which was the first time for Thomas Frank, which was Bournemouth. We saw Bournemouth against Liverpool early in the season. Manchester City, don't know what's happening with them at the moment. That's 2 defeats on the bounce. They look all over the place at Brighton. West Ham, Graham Potter, you've got a little bit of a lifeline then, getting a 3-0 victory Fulham, I felt for Fulham as well. The VAR has not worked for them. The youngster Josh King, 18 years old, came through the academy, scored a goal. They cancelled it because someone trod on one of the defenders' ankles. I mean, what is going on? It's a physical contact game. And Manchester United, they got beat by Grimsby in the Carabao Cup last week. It's a disaster for them. They had to beat Burnley. Burnley were fighting. They made it. They kept coming from behind to make it 2-2, but Bruno Fernandes penalty saw them get over the line. I think there's problems at Manchester United. You know, they're something like the FA European Cup. They've just beaten Burnley. So I think we're going to be talking about it a lot throughout this season, though. But Aston Villa as well, they got beat 3-0. So I feel sorry because the success they've had, because the financial fair play, they've had to get rid of players and started off well this campaign.
Now, away from football, over in Holland for the F1 fans, what's the scoop from the track? Any surprises from this weekend?
It's all about Piastri against Lando Norris. Lando Norris has won 4 out of the last 5, and he really is putting it right the both the team. But there's a problem for Norris. It looked like, the starting aid, which was Piastri and Lando Norris second, Verstappen. As the race was going on, it was going to be as a just. But he had an oil leak, so he had to retire out of the race. So from it being 9 points, it then went on to 34 points. So there's 9 races to go. It finished off with Verstappen finishing second, and Isaac Hadjar. It's the first time he's made the podium, which he's part of the Racing Bull team. So congratulations for him. But at the moment, the battle is with the McLaren team, and the next race is Italy, and then obviously we go to Baku. But I would not say Lando Norris hasn't got a chance, because his form, and he really wants to put pressure. It wasn't his fault because of the oil leak, but expect to see him come back strong.
Well, I look forward to your predictions on the Baku Grand Prix soon. But looking ahead to next week, what's on the sports menu?
Well, there is no more domestic football because we go into the internationals. And obviously, let's not forget, there's that small tournament at the end of the season, the World Cup, which is going to be in America, Canada and Mexico. But it's the World Cup qualifiers. This will start off throughout next week. They will play next week and the week after the 2 games. So it's about qualifying. You know, at the end of the season, they go off to a huge tournament there. So we will have that. I'm going to give you a build-up as well. Alvarez against Terence Crawford in the boxing. That is not next weekend. That is on the 13th. Undisputed title. And if you love your boxing, I will be part of the build-up with you. You know, next week, and not this week, next week when we start getting into the weigh-ins. It's in Las Vegas. It doesn't get any bigger. What a fight that is going to be. And we have the US Open as well, which is in tennis. At the moment is playing. It's usual suspects who are there, but as we get towards the weekend, we get to the semi-finals and finals, and I'll be right across that for you as well. So you've got sport everywhere at the moment, and some really exciting stuff happening.
Great, that's all we have time for. Thank you, Nick, and have a great rest of your morning. That's all your news for now. Stay tuned to AnewZ and have a great morning.